Good evening, YouTube land. Welcome to Studio 101. This is a place that's just developing. It's been in process for about 2 years, for as long as I've been living in this space. And my intention with this space was to have a music and yoga studio and personal living space. And now I have enough time where I can actually cultivate all of that. It's April 15th. It's 8:30 p.m. right now where I'm at in this time. No, I can't wear this forwards. Let's take it off. And what I do here is I read the Bhagavad Gita and talk about it and explain it. The reason why I read the Bhagavad Gita and talk about it and explain it is because 1, it's a very important text. 2, I'm a yoga teacher, and this text deals directly with yoga. And 3, we're in a situation right now as a species, as a global society, where we're having to make some significant choices about how we're going to move forward with our future. And this book offers a lot of information on how to do that. Even if the choices that you're making aren't directly affecting global society, if you're affecting your circle in a more positive way, in a more mindful way, in a more loving, devotional way, then that's helping to affect the world, the rest of the world, just by you doing your part. Let's turn this so we can get the fire in the shot. The fire is kind of important. There we go. All right. Some hi-hats in the background. So how I start is play a little bit of music, and then we'll get into the book. We're going to play a little bit of music this time. I talked a lot in the last satsang. Skipped last night. Had to just take a day. But here we are. Stoked to be here. Let's see. Sounds pretty good. Let's try this. Again, trying to figure things out on the spot. I should have practiced. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Oh, I don't think I know the chord changes after that. I know it in a different key. Oh man, I'm so glad this is live, because otherwise, in a state of panic about my own imperfection, I would just stop. And even though I did stop playing, it's because I didn't really know where I was going to go from there. But it's funny how the mind works when you're putting yourself out in some way. All right, let's move on. Let's get to the text. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So as I check into this moment, reflecting on what I just said, relaxing, moving out of my head, moving out of the state of performance and perfection and planning. The past few days I've been setting up my drums and been sitting down asking for things to just flow, for there to be no doubt, no fear, no hesitation. And reminding myself when I make mistakes or when I lose the flow, or when I feel like things are less than what they could or should be, I try to remind myself again, there is no less than for God. God doesn't see less than. It's only my false ego that processes less than or more than or different than. All levels within this same experience, this same circumstance, the material nature. And my body and my soul having this human experience together, creating this beautiful opportunity to reflect on ego, reflect on mind, reflect on choice, authenticity. Being able to let it flow without feeling contrived or overshaped. Whatever the Dharma is, whatever the truth is, whether it's through my drums or through my guitar, or through my chanting, is what I was talking to my teacher about a couple days ago. I heard a talk from a guy named Indra Prabhu. He's a kirtan enthusiast, kirtan master. And he was talking about Shuddhanam. And I asked my teacher what that was. And he said it's called the pure name. Shuddhanam is the pure name. Put my guitar away. And, what Prabhu was talking about was how some people are doing kirtan, but they're not really doing kirtan. It's like some people are playing drums, but they're not really playing drums. I always would call it the distinction between the people who own drums and the people who are musicians, or the people who own guitars and people who are guitarists. There are certain people that they can't live without that. It's just a part of them. And what Prabhu was saying is that some people, when they chant kirtan or when they play, their mind is not on divinity. Their mind is not fixed. Their consciousness is not fixed on not only on divinity, but on serving divinity, being in devotional service through the kirtan, through the sound, through the sacred sound of music. Because that's what kirtan is. Kirtan is music, but it's intentional, divine music where you're calling on the Lord and in faith and reverence, and with it in a way that everyone can hear and that everyone can celebrate. And it's leading to what the Gita, Prabhupada has a breakdown in here about the koshas and how there's these sheaths, and the last sheath is Anandamaya, which is the state of pure blissful being. And I think that's what Prabhu is talking about. That some people, it's rare to find people that are able to express themselves in such an authentic way where they're so connected and they're so in the flow. Whereas others at times are performing, they're waiting for something to happen. And it takes a lot of either it's raw talent or it's pure hard work to push through barriers and limitations and get to that point of true mastery of your craft, or mastery of your instrument, mastery of your body, mastery of your mind, mastery of the senses. And for me, music has always been a way that I've been able to practice mastering my senses and mastering my mind, because the coordination that it takes to play drums in the first place is heavy, but then to actually play drums and do it well, to make it sound good, and then to be able to play drums, make it sound good, and improvise, getting back to this idea of like the pure name. Like if you were to close your eyes and you were to look within yourself, what do you think your pure name would be? Like what's your, beyond the name that was given to you? This is just coming off the top of my head right now. This is just I don't know, talking about Shudanam and trying to make it relevant to us. Because that's what this is all about. The satsang, all this is all about trying to take the texts, the spiritual scientific texts of yoga, mainly the Bhagavad Gita, which, by the way, if you want to read along, it's not an exact translation, but if you want to read, it's not exactly the same translation that I'm reading, rather. It is an exact translation, but it's a different, I think some of the purports are kind of mixed in with the translation in the one on Vedabase, but you can download a copy of the book and read along on vedabase.com. So getting back to this name, searching for your own authentic name, in a way, is a way of searching your soul for what you feel is like your authentic self. And sometimes to just sit in silence and do that is challenging. It's a little bit more effort than sometimes you like to put in, because then the mind becomes very present. The mind is then right there. If you're silent, and I know that that's what Krishna advises, is to sit in silence away from people. However, if you're not quite ready for that yet, it's probably a good idea to get a drum or get an instrument, or pick up some kind of a passion. Pick up some kind of a passion so that you can put yourself into something, get connected and united with it to the point where you lose yourself in it, where your ego and your mind, the thought starts to fade away. I think this is why people love running so much. Because once you get out and you're on the road and you're running, if there's something on your mind, and you want to get that out of your mind, going for a run is great. Because once the run starts to get difficult, your mind is not thinking about that problem anymore. Your mind, or that whatever that situation is, your mind is like, we're going to keep running. We're going to keep going, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. It's uncomfortable, but breathe. Keep one foot after the other. Slow down if you need to. Move your arms a little less. And it becomes like a whole state of body awareness, and deep breathing and drumming, music, chanting is the same way. You're working your breathing constantly. And having to stay so focused to not lose your presence on doubt or fear. Because thought comes in. Once that moment comes in of doubt or questioning, that's when the sticks slip, or you lose the melody, or you play the wrong chord or something like that. And if your mind is on the performance aspect of it, then that matters. But if your mind is on the pure expression, the pure allergies. One more. If your mind is on pure expression, there are no mistakes. It's all flow. It's all perfect. And getting past that sense of, oh, am I doing it right? Does it sound right? Does it look good? Is this something that people would approve of? I think I need tissue. That's really the work in being creative. Truly creative, flow state creative. I don't know that I want to call it high performance. I think a lot of people are taking flow state and they're associating with high performance so that they can market it and they can brand it. But flow state, let me get into the text. I'm starting to ramble here, which is not unlike me. But all right, here we go. We're in chapter 11, the universal form, verse 48. O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has seen this universal form of mine. For neither by studying the Veda, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charities or similar activities can this form be seen. Only you have seen this. So in a way, well, first let me explain what's happening. So just before this, Krishna gave Arjuna, his disciple, divine sight, put the spirit goggles on him, and then Arjuna was able to see the universal form of Krishna, which is beginning, middle, and end. Everything that it's beyond human conception what he sees, and it both glorifies and terrifies him. And what Krishna is saying is, "Oh, best of the Kuru warriors." So the level of warriors that we're talking about with Arjuna and his brothers it's like universal class. They talk about world class performers. These guys, they're born from they come from divine births. All 5 of them. They came from a blessing, a mantra that was spoken by their mother, who could not sleep with their father, their human father. But she was granted a boon a long time ago that gave her a mantra where she could recite the mantra and for any deity, and they would come down and they would grant her a wish. So when her husband wanted to have sons and wanted to have children, but she wasn't able to bear them because he had a curse on him and they weren't able to know each other, she tells him at that point about the mantra, and he asks her to use it to give him sons, and she uses it, and then his other wife uses it as well. I don't think it's Satyavati. It might be Kunti and Satyavati. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm sure somebody else knows that. I know Kunti is the one who had the mantra, though. So he says, "Oh, best of the Kuru warriors, top shelf, world class, universal class. No one before you has seen this universal form of mine." So this is a first. What's going on right now in the Bhagavad Gita in this moment is a first in history. No one, when God says, "No one before you has seen this universal form of mine," he's not exaggerating. He's not just saying that. It's the truth. This is a historical moment that's taking place. And he also describes, neither by studying the Veda, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charities or similar activities can this form be seen. So, all this time, for the people who have been slaving over the Vedas, who've been doing all these sacrifices, all these yagas, burning all these fires, learning all these chants and spending days and weeks not eating and giving food and doing these penances and these rituals over and over again. The people who are completely, who renounce all their stuff, give all their stuff away, are always doing good things for people, always like do charity work, or anything similar to that. None of them can see that. So no matter how good you are, you're still in the mode of goodness. In this physical reality, you're still in sattva gun, or satya gun. No, satya is truth. I think it's sattva gun. Yeah, I'm spacing. Anyways, so as long as we're stuck in this material reality, no matter how much good we do, we're not going to be able to see the universal form. That is restrict. That's off limits, top secret. But Arjuna gets to see it. Only he's the only one that sees this. However, I find there's a little bit of a catch in this, because, and we'll see it here. So verse 49, "Your mind has been perturbed at seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free from all disturbance. With a peaceful mind, you can see my form as you have desired." So Krishna also admits that even though it's very special, and this is first time ever, part of the reason why is because it's horrible. it's not just life. It's not just all life. It's all death too. Scary teeth, devouring, eating. It's like, Prabhupada talks about how the tongue, taming the tongue is so important because you have to understand the consciousness of hunger, the consciousness of food, and why food is so important. And when Arjuna says, I'm seeing your mouths and your teeth, there's something, and the fact that people are being devoured into these mouths, something about the cycle of birth and death and food, very, very closely connected. I'm not sure how yet, but I'm gonna do a little bit of research on this and try to bring some information back. How are you guys doing, by the way? I'm pretty sure Claudina's here, and then I see the other usual one person popping in and out, but yeah. All right, so here we go. Verse 50. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, so now this is the sage in the king's court talking to the king, who the sage is narrating this by divine sight. He says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, while speaking thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-handed form, and at last he showed his two-handed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. So, even though Krishna says, only you have seen this, Sanjaya, the sage, and now Dhritarashtra are aware of it. They're aware that this form has been observed, which in a way is like, it's kind of saying like, I think he's kind of saying like, it's, you've seen it, but now everyone knows about it. Like, I only showed it to you. Only you could see it, but now all of existence is aware of it. And what proves that is the fact that we're holding this book right now. It's not like this just happened and then it went away and nobody knew about the conversation. That's what's so divine about all this, besides the fact that it is divinity, but at least that's how I feel about it. But that it's covering so much ground of, and it does seem magical in a sense when you think about it, for the way that we live our lives, to believe that there would be a sage with divine sight who can be in one place at one time with one person, observing this conversation between God in personal form and a great warrior on a battlefield many, many miles away. That can seem a little far-fetched. However, think of what your mind would be like without television, without internet, without phones, without radio, without electricity as we know it. And that's not to say that electricity wouldn't exist. Electricity does exist. However, if it wasn't being used so much in the form of entertainment, and this goes back to that performance aspect of our existence. We're so hung up on being entertained on the outside. Oh, my back hurts. We're so hung up on being entertained on the outside that very rarely do we take time to go inside and fully reflect on the capacity of the noodle, the intuition, the gut, the heart mind. So what's the point of all this? The point of all this is that just because you can't conceive of it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Just because you can't do what's described in this book doesn't mean that it can't be done. And just because you weren't there to see it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And even if it is just poetry, and it is a beautiful story written by a master poet, where does it come from for him? Where does he get his inspiration? Think about it. It's got to come from somewhere. But because the simplicity of it is almost so inconceivable to us. It's laid out in a form all at once in a very quick conversation that can then be handed down in story form to be reinterpreted and reinterpreted and reinterpreted throughout the ages as this divine eternal conversation that all of eternity gets to peek in on all at the same time. Like that when he reveals himself to Arjuna, the demigods, the all beings in heaven and earth, like the heavenly bodies and the heavenly beings, they witness this, they see this, and they see him, and they fold their hands and they bow. They're like, it's a revelation for the universe. And it echoes through time, through space from that moment on. It's truly amazing. It really is. It's just truly amazing. And then we get to sit here and we get to learn about it and find the way to apply it to our humanity now. Because the humans then, whatever the technology was that they had, whatever their civilization was like, whatever our race was like at that time and in that place, it's implied that there was something that's a little bit more special about it. That they were living a different kind of a life. And in many ways, people in India still do. I haven't been yet. I can't wait to go. But what is talked about is that in India, there is a reverence for simplicity. This text, this is like we have the King James Bible in every hotel and motel around the United States. This is in every home in India and in many other places around the world. And it's taken as fact. It's taken that this happened and that's what makes it so significant, that it's history. Same thing with the Bible. Same thing with the Torah. Just the question is, what resonates with you? And can you try to see the parallels between all this? 51. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful, I am now settled in mind and am restored to my original nature. So, Krishna, in a way, through experience, because yoga is all about steadiness. Yoga is all about being steady, being relaxed, being fixed, being firm. Krishna, knowing that Arjuna has to fight this crazy battle, he's going to have to kill all these people, he takes Arjuna to the edge of the universe. He takes him ludicrous speed all the way out into the depths of forever times infinity. And when Arjuna comes back, he's super chill. He's like, I'm now settled. Before, I was freaking out. When I knew I had to kill all these people, I didn't know if I could do it. And I wasn't sure what to say, and I wasn't sure what to do, and I was asking you, and then you were trying to help me steady my mind, but I didn't think that I'd be able to do it. And then you lead me down this journey, and then you show me eternity. Oh, okay. Wow, thank you so much. I'm good. It was scary, and it was crazy, but that's what it is. Now I just saw the truth. Now that I've seen the truth, I truly can relax. So that's why he says, I am now settled in mind. He's now doing his mind is settled. His mind is fixed. He's doing yoga now. and am restored to my original nature. It's almost like a rebirth has taken place. See the similarities? Born again, the rebirth, a process of initiation and ascension, however you want to label it. Arjuna's just leveled up. He just saw all of existence. It's a teaching. 52. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, the form you are seeing now is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear." So let's listen to the purport on this. In the 48th chapter, in the 48th verse of this chapter, which is, "O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has seen this universal form of mine. Neither by studying the Veda, nor by performing sacrifice, nor by charity or similar activities can this form be seen. Only you have seen this." When the Lord concluded the manifestation of his universal form, he informed Arjuna that this form is not visible by dint of so many activities, penances, charities, sacrifices, etc. Now here it is said that although one may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various pious activities, still beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna with two hands is yet more difficult to see, even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva. We have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when Krishna was in the womb of his mother, Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna, and they offered nice prayers to the Lord, although he was not at that time visible to them. They waited to see Krishna. Therefore, the foolish person may mock at him, thinking him an ordinary man, and may offer respect not to him, but to the impersonal something within him. But these are nonsensical postures. Krishna is desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva. They long to see him in his two-handed form. In Bhagavad Gita, it is elsewhere confirmed that he is not visible to the foolish who deride him. Now, the reason for mocking at Krishna's form may be stated as follows. Krishna's body is completely spiritual, full of bliss and eternal. His body is never like our material body. But for those who are making a cultural phenomenon of Krishna by studying Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, he is a problem. This problem has three methods of approach: by transcendental process, by the material process, and by the speculative process. According to the material process, Krishna is considered a great historical personality or a very learned philosopher. Not an ordinary man, but even though he was so powerful, he had to accept a material body. The absolute truth is impersonal, and therefore, from the impersonal feature, he assumed a personal feature attached to material nature. This is the materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. The next calculation is speculative. Those in search of knowledge also sometimes speculate on Krishna and consider him less important than the universal form. They think that the universal form Krishna manifested to Arjuna is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Supreme is something like imagination. Again, what he's saying is there's classes of people where they don't qualify this as real. They qualify it as some like God becoming a human, that the God part is more difficult to see than the human part. The body part. And then here, saying that the universal form, no, that's what they're saying before, that the materialistic calculation is that absolute truth is impersonal, and therefore from an impersonal feature, he assumed a personal attached to material nature. So that in the beginning, the materialistic calculation is that when the impersonal becomes personal, it then becomes attached to the material modes of nature and is obedient to them, which is false, because Krishna is always above the modes of material nature. That the universal form, the God form, is more important than the personal form, which is not, because it's harder to see God in the personal two-handed form because we too closely associate with ourselves. We think that there's, in the similarity, oh, I look at you, and you look at me, we kind of look the same, we must be the same. Krishna is the divine. Krishna is the was, and forever will be. And if you're associating yourself with him because he's in human form or he's in personal form, you don't get it. That's not shooting on. That's not the pure name. It's a trip, right? And I'm enjoying reading this purport because it has nothing to do with masculine and feminine. This is really getting into like the nitty gritty of Krishna and our perception of divinity, which is so crucial, so crucial. All right. Otherwise, in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person, but the transcendental process is described in Bhagavad Gita's 2nd chapter, to hear about Krishna from authorities. That is the actual Vedic process. Those who are in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authority, and though repeatedly hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear, because, as we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by the Yogamaya potency. Yogamaya is how do I describe this? This is a beautiful studio in New York too, by the way, which I've yet to go to, but a woman named Bryn Chrisman, who owns that studio, came and did our training, and we had to specifically learn the meaning of this word. Yogamaya is like the divine union with Maya, the illusion. It's how to be in union with the illusion, and be in divine union with the material world. It's the yoga of being steady and united with divinity in the material world, which is awesome. He's not seen by or revealed to anyone and everyone. Only those to whom he reveals himself can see him. This is confirmed in Vedic literature. See, here's a spot where it can seem like, oh, well, only when God wants to reveal himself to you can you be seen. Well, that means that they're making it up. But I don't know that anyone else saw the burning bush. It was only meant for one person. Only one person went up on top of the mountain and heard God speak. When somebody receives divinity in a biblical or a Vedic sense, it's with the exception of this here that I know of, it's coming in an impersonal form. A burning bush is not a personal form. A voice in the sky is not a personal form. It's masked. It's a formless entity that moves from nature with no apparent beginning or end, except the sound of the voice, the vibration. But here, you have a person, a personal form. Divinity comes into a personal form to say, I'm not attached to this form like the way you're attached to your form. I'm not part of the same rules. But some people look at me and they think that I am, and I'm completely masked to them. The potency for them to see me is always there. But it's super, 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 super difficult. Super difficult. Let's finish this. The absolute truth can actually be understood by one who is a surrendered soul. This transcendentalist, by continuous Krishna consciousness in devotional service to Krishna, has his spiritual eyes open and sees Krishna through revelation. Such a revelation is not available even to the demigods. Even for them, it is difficult to understand Krishna. And among demigods, those who are advanced always hope to see Krishna in his two-handed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form as Syamasundara. Maybe that's the personal. I don't know. I have to look that word up. I wonder, maybe this is insulting, but I wonder if that makes it come off as human arrogance or human ego in a way, where the fact that he's so closely related to us, that the demigods want to see him as closely related to us as possible. And also saying in a way that the demigods have a desire to be human. I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to somebody about that. I have many questions coming up for me tonight. This is awesome. This is what happens when you start getting later into the book, and these like the deeper stuff starts to come out of like, yeah, it's mind-boggling. All right, verse 53. The form which you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Veda, nor by undergoing. Oh wait. Yeah. Nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. Not by these means can one see me as I am. Studying the Veda, doing serious penance, charity, those can all be tied to outcomes. Those could all be tied to some sort of false ego getting something for giving something. Not by these means can one see me as I am. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am. Undivided means there's no doubt. There's no question. It's 100% faith. It's unshakable. Steadfastness. It's an important word in here. Steadiness and steadfastness. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. So that means, it implies that Arjuna has been in undivided devotional service to Krishna his whole life, to divinity, since birth. Because it's only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am standing before you. So that lays the reward of undivided devotional service onto Arjuna. But it also sets a precedent for those of us who are still in the material world to say, you can't be in both. And on all levels and reach divinity. Your entire concept of this reality has to transcend. And that, in a way, let me read verse 55 and then I think that we're done. Yes. My dear Arjuna, anyone who is engaged in my pure devotional service, freed from the contaminations of previous activities and from mental speculation, and who is friendly to every living entity, certainly comes to me. So this last verse, I don't want to just skip over it and get to the end, because that's what he's saying is super, super important. All this stuff is really, really relevant right now, by the way. Anyone who is engaged in my pure devotional service, freed from the contamination of previous activities. So, we had a very special life before all this happened. We had very special activities. We had restaurants, we had bars, we had movies, we had roller coaster rides, and we had, casinos and water parks, and we had all this stuff, and it's all still there. It's just closed. Ain't nobody going near it. Nobody doing anything with that stuff right now. So, freed from contaminations of previous activities means that all of that stuff that happened back there, to still be back there, is a contamination of your thoughts now. It contaminates you because it blinds you from seeing that in this moment, divinity is everywhere and you are part of it. You are not it, but you are part of it. And you have an opportunity to dive into divinity through your purpose and purify yourself. Make yourself healthy, because the world is being attacked by some sort of this thing, this virus thing, this entity, this sentient, and this whatever it is. I don't even know if a virus is a sentient being, but it exists, so it's a being. And it's also divinity. Because everything that exists that we can conceive of, and then out beyond our conception, for all time, everywhere in space, is divinity. Exists within this one root form cause, which is also outside of it and not subject to it. What we know and what we understand as this material life. And the mental speculation, the contamination of the thoughts that leads to mental speculation about what's real and what's not, what's God and what's not. It kind of lays all that to bed when you say everything is God. Everything is divinity. You, me, all of this, virus, plague, Catholicism, murder, incest, all of it is divinity. Why? Because it exists. Because it exists, then it is part of existence. It was created. It is part of creation. And all of creation that we can conceive of and beyond is infinitely connected to divinity, which has no preference other than goodness. Has no means other than goodness. It can be very difficult to understand unless it's put into perhaps a context of one who is friendly to every living entity certainly comes to me. So, in order to balance, and this is talked about earlier in the book as well, in order to balance and create the fuel by which this existence, the cycle of birth and death takes place, is through struggle. We don't struggle without pain. We don't struggle without resistance. We don't struggle without obstacle. The initiation process, which is so important, puts a person face to face with a problem, with a struggle, and you have to struggle your way through it. You have to make your way through it. You have to overcome something in order to become empowered, in order to find your true nature, your true inner nature. And I know that I wasn't properly initiated. I've been through initiation processes, but when I was younger, I was not properly initiated. That was weird. I wonder if somebody said, fireworks? I'm curious if that came through in the video, because what I heard was popping outside. Almost like gunshots, but I don't know. I hope everyone's okay. It's the struggle. It's the struggle that breeds confidence, that breeds survival. I think it's fireworks. I don't know, car just rushed by. Wow, I hope everyone's okay. It's got a weird feeling. But this all brings us back to a reminder. What we are in total is connected to something that doesn't just create for no good reason. Does not simply create so that you can suffer. We suffer within the modes of the nature that we are connected to, but we can transcend that. Does it mean that wickedness does not exist? Absolutely not. Does it mean that pain somehow goes away? Absolutely not. It means that we approach these things. We approach the darkness from a place of light. We shed light on our darkness. We shed light on the importance of staying connected to goodness. I see the good in others and I let them know it. It's compassion, tolerance, reverence, respect. And we have about a minute and a half left. And with this time that we're in right now, we're being given an opportunity to relearn these things, to go within, to discover, not be a person who wears a mask to cover the darkness, not letting your darkness come to light, but instead allowing the revelation to take place, allowing those parts of you that have been holding back, that have been a little bit afraid to be vulnerable, a little bit afraid, a little bit speculative. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself some credit. And take this time now, while you have it, to truly express yourself. And you don't have to share it with the whole world. You don't have to put it out there and brand it and market it and make it something that, is life-changing for anyone other than yourself. It could be that nobody ever watches these videos. It could be that this doesn't make any kind of, it's just in me and my ego hoping that like millions of people will see this one day and, or over time and be influenced by it. Or it's if I'm being kinder to myself and I'm in alignment with these principles, then the reason why I'm doing this is because it has the potential to reach those people, and therefore this message, not me, not my personality, not my name or my image, but the teaching that we're okay, you're safe, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're part of a cycle of birth and death that has been going on forever, which you can transcend if you can get into a transcendental state of mind and lifestyle, which would be much more difficult if the regular routine of your past life that was the world before all of this now was still taking place, because you'd be in your routine, you'd be in your habits. You'd be in your material patterns, but your pattern just got disrupted and you're shuffled around. So take the time to be shuffled, to be ruffled, and to make some of that space from the shuffle and find what's been calling out to you from within yourself. And then do something about it. And don't do it to be the guy or do it to be the girl, but do it to demonstrate that we all have it and that we can live content and peaceful and do service for others. And even though terrible things are happening, at least we know that we're not part of that. We don't condone it, but we have compassion for those who are stuck in that because for whatever reason, they've been damaged and they've been traumatized and they were turned into something, cursed by something that doesn't allow them to have a right-minded conception in this life of what it is that we're talking about. That's sad. That is super sad. Some of us make mistakes. All of us make mistakes, but very few of us are able to say, okay, you know what? That was my humanity. I didn't know then what I know now, and I've done the work and I've learned my lesson. I've forgiven myself. I've forgiven others, and moving forward, I'm going to do my best to not let that happen again and to grow from it and not carry it as like a scar or a wound. Most people do not live their lives like that. They live their lives where it never ends in their thoughts. The stuff that happened in the past, it never goes away. They never forgive. They never forget. And that is a difficult place to transcend from because you're not renouncing the fact that it's eternal. You're stuck on a temporary thing that happened in the past. So it's making you unable to see the beauty of the present. It's not just an ancient, made-up fairy tale conversation. This is eternal wisdom that brings up these very important questions. And I hope that you will take some time to reflect on these questions and to read through. And maybe if this doesn't make sense for you, find a text that does make sense for you. There's so many out there that discuss this thing in different vocabulary and different scenes and different settings. But like I said, the reason why I do this is because I feel like this is kind of special. The personal, and I learned this from my teachers. It took me a long time to understand it. So if you don't get it right now, I totally understand. But the personal form is one of the easiest and most rewarding forms to learn from because it's so tricky. And that's why Krishna is the trickster, the thief, the butter thief, the sweet thief. All right. Tomorrow we will have chapter 12, devotional service. So, getting into the work of life. Went a little over time tonight, but you know what? That's one of the blessings of this YouTube live is that if I go a couple minutes over, I don't get cut off and have to come back and start all over again. That's positive. The negative is that if I'm advertising only on Instagram, it's hard for, I guess, but you know what? No, it's not hard for people to go from Instagram to YouTube. It's on the same device. What am I talking about? Lame. Just made up excuses for myself and everybody else. Over 5 minutes and 43, 44, 45, 46 seconds. Oh, all right. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Reach out if you have any questions. Again, my name is Josh Kane, Studio 101. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Saying thank you to the body. Thank you to this space. Thank you to all of our teachers. Thank you to the eternal practice of yoga and meditation and mindfulness. Bowing to ourselves and to each other. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me tonight. And thank you for letting me serve you. Aho. Namaste. Word up. See you tomorrow.